The wind cut sharp through the evergreens of Glacier National Park, Montana. A storm was coming, but Alina Whitaker, Ellie to everyone who knew her, kept walking. At 67, she moved with the purpose of someone who knew these trails better than she knew the wrinkles on her own hands. She'd been a ranger here for over 3 decades. The mountains had taught her patience, pain, and persistence. And now they were teaching her grief. 3 weeks. That's how long it had been since her son Daniel, his wife Rachel, and their twin daughters, Ivy and Wren, disappeared on what was supposed to be a simple weekend hike. Daniel had sent her a photo that afternoon, smiling with his girls beneath the wide Montana sky. Rachel stood beside him, wind in her hair, holding the twins close. Ellie had smiled when she saw it, saved it on her phone. It would be the last photo she ever received from them. Now she was back, not as a ranger, not even as a search party member, as a mother, as a grandmother, as someone who could not rest knowing her family was still missing. She reached the trailhead lodge as the snow started to drift sideways. Inside, Tom, the lodge clerk, gave her that same look she'd seen 100 times in the past 3 weeks. Pity wrapped in politeness. She didn't want it. What she wanted was a sign, a clue, something more than platitudes and old flyers. "I'm here to replace the posters," she told him, voice firm. She pulled a thick stack from her pack. Daniel's face stared back at her in the photo, stocky build, evergreen hoodie. Rachel's warm smile, Ivy in yellow, Wren in purple, matching missing teeth where their baby smiles still lived. She posted them one by one, trailhead. Bulletin boards, visitor kiosk. As she did, she thought about the last call from Daniel. "The girls have been asking for your stories," he'd said. "Next time," she had replied, next time. When she reached a bend in the trail, she paused. She used to teach survival out here, had trained dozens of rangers. She knew these woods didn't take people lightly. Daniel was raised in them. He wouldn't have led his family into danger without a reason. Something else had happened, something wrong. That's when she heard a voice. "Excuse me, can I get one of those?" She turned to find a man in his 50s approaching, dressed in camouflage and an orange hunting vest. His face was lined by wind and time, his eyes alert. "I'm Cal Jennings, local hunter, been up here 30 years. "Ellie Whitaker," she replied, offering the flyer. He stared at it. "Wait, these folks went missing up here 3 weeks ago." Cal's brow furrowed. He reached into his coat and pulled out a trail camera. "I've got a few cams posted near the upper ridge for tracking elk. Mind if I check something?" Ellie's heart thumped once, then again harder. She watched him scroll through grainy footage. Trees, a moose, snow falling in loops, then movement, a woman, 2 children, a flash of coral jacket, a splash of yellow, lavender beside it. "Oh my God," Ellie whispered. "That's Rachel." "That's Ivy and Wren." Cal looked grim. This was taken 3 days ago. 3 days, not 3 weeks. Her family was alive, but Daniel wasn't there. "Where is this?" she asked. He pulled up coordinates. 8 miles north, rough country. No official trails. That's why the police hadn't searched it. Too remote, too unstable, too dangerous, but not too dangerous for a desperate mother trying to survive. "I need a copy of this," Ellie said. "Already sent it to your phone," Cal replied. "And here," he handed her his number. "If you go up there, take me with you. I know that terrain." "I'll call the police first," Ellie said. Her voice was steadier now, focused. Fueled by something sharper than pain, hope. That night in her cabin, she called Detective Marshall. "They're alive," she told him. "I have footage. You need to see it." The detective was cautious, professional but respectful. "We'll resume the search at first light." First light, it would be another night alone out there for Rachel and the girls. Ellie stared at her screen, where the paused image of Rachel leading the twins through snow remained. 3 days ago. But where was Daniel? Where was her son? The mountain, it seemed, was still keeping secrets. The sky over Glacier darkened fast, swallowing color and hope alike. Inside her small cabin, Ellie couldn't sleep. Not after seeing her granddaughters alive in that footage. Not knowing Rachel had survived too. But Daniel, the silence around his absence screamed the loudest. Ellie had taught herself not to assume the worst during rescues. But this time her instincts whispered the truth she didn't want to hear. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. She tried to sit with the waiting. She really did. Ate a few noodles at the lodge to quiet the growl in her stomach. Listened to hikers' gossip by the fire, most respectful, some ignorant. One man muttered she was too old to be leading anything now. Another said if it were his family, he'd be out there in the storm, not sipping soup. That stung. But maybe they were right. So quietly after dark, Ellie packed. Thermal layers, GPS, energy bars, knife, first aid. every ounce of caution from her years as a ranger warred with the urgency in her chest. But she knew the math. In survival, time is everything. The longer someone is missing, the more likely they stay that way, especially in snow. She slipped into the storm like a ghost, avoiding the main trail. The snow was thick, wind cruel. Her breath turned to ice around her face, but she kept moving. Hours passed. Trees blurred together, her legs ached, lungs burned. Then a glow, not the moon, not a star, a cabin, lit from within and not abandoned. She approached carefully, heart thudding, knocked once, then again, the door opened. Rachel stood there, alive, pale, stunned. "Ellie, how did you find us?" Before Ellie could answer, two small voices squealed behind her. "Grandma Ellie." Ivy and Wren ran to her but paused, unsure. They looked thinner than before, but their eyes still the same spark. Ellie dropped to her knees, arms wide. "Come here, babies." She pulled them into her chest, nearly sobbing from the relief. Rachel hurried to usher them back to bed. "Let her warm up," she told the girls. "You can talk in the morning." Once they were tucked in, Ellie sat across from Rachel at the table. The warmth of the fire helped, but she noticed every detail. Dried milk, canned food, a sturdy structure, shelves stocked well, too well for an abandoned cabin it felt lived in. "Rachel," she asked softly, "where is Daniel?" Rachel's face crumpled. "Gone," she whispered. "After the first storm hit, he went to get help. We were out of signal. He thought he could find a ranger, maybe sell service. That was the last I saw him." Ellie stared at her, eyes searching. "Did you look for him?" "I couldn't," Rachel replied, voice raw. "Not with the girls. I didn't know where to start. I stayed here waiting." It almost made sense, almost, but Ellie's eyes wandered again to the shelves, fresh supplies. Firewood piled high, milk that hadn't expired. Who keeps this place stocked? Rachel hesitated. I think someone uses it seasonally. We've been hiding when we hear anyone coming. I was afraid." Something wasn't right. Then Ellie saw it, under a loose floorboard near the trash, something glinting. She bent down, a wedding ring, Daniel's, pristine. It hadn't been there long. Rachel jumped up. It must have slipped off that first night. His hands were numb. Ellie stared at her, heart pounding. "Rachel, are you telling me everything?" Before she could answer, pain. A flash behind her eyes, Rachel, the butt of a rifle, swinging down, darkness. Ellie's world went black. Ellie awoke to cold and pain. A searing throb pulsed at the back of her skull, the air thick with the sharp sting of gas. Her limbs were stiff, arms bound to a chair. For a moment she was confused, disoriented. Then it came back, Rachel, the ring, the rifle. She distrusted her, even after the unease had begun to crawl beneath her skin. And now here she was, tied up, a fire flickering low and the overwhelming scent of leaking propane pressing against her lungs. The room was quiet, too quiet. Rachel and the twins were gone. She struggled against the ropes. They weren't expertly tied, just tight. Her wrists burned as she twisted them back and forth, searching for slack. Her pocket, yes, her knife. It was still there, thank God. But getting to it, not easy with her hands lashed behind her. She rocked the chair inch by inch, then threw her weight hard to one side. It crashed to the floor, jarring her bones. The leg splintered, but more importantly, gave her just enough room to maneuver her fingers toward the knife. She worked fast, heart pounding. The smell of gas grew stronger. Somewhere behind her, the fire popped, and a soft hiss grew louder. She was running out of time. The rope sliced. Then again, one wrist free. She didn't wait. Ellie scrambled for the window as flames licked the wall. The door was locked. No way out that way. She grabbed a log from the fireplace and swung it against the glass. Once, twice. The pane shattered, cutting her hands and arms. She didn't stop. Crawled through the jagged frame, tearing her coat and her leg as she tumbled into the snow outside. Behind her, the cabin roared to life. Fire met gas. The explosion sent heat barreling out in a furious wave. She hit the ground hard and rolled. Her ears rang, her hair smoldered, but she was alive. Somewhere in the woods, Rachel was fleeing with Ivy, and Ellie wasn't going to let her get away. Then, crying, a voice in the dark. "Grandma Ellie." She turned, heart stopping. Wren. Alone, huddled at the base of a rock, leg twisted unnaturally, face streaked with tears. Ellie rushed over, dropping to her knees. "Oh, baby, oh my God, I've got you." She gently examined the ankle, broken, swollen. Wren sobbed. "Mom said I was slowing us down. She left with Ivy. She said one of us had to be sacrificed." Ellie held her granddaughter tightly. Rage boiled under her ribs. Rachel, she had lied about everything. She demurdered Daniel, tried to murder Ellie, and now she had abandoned her own daughter in the snow to die. No more waiting, no more mercy. Ellie fashioned a makeshift splint from branches and her scarf. Then, with every bit of strength she had left, she lifted Wren into her arms. "Hold on, sweet girl," she whispered into her ear. "Grandma's taking you home." Snow bit at her face, her boots sunk deep, but she didn't stop. Hour after hour, step after step, she walked, through dark forest, over slick rock, holding on to Wren with one arm, balancing with the other. By dawn, she saw the first trail markers, then rooftops, then people. "Help!" She cried out, staggering toward the lodge. They came running. And this time the mountain did not take her family. This time Ellie brought one of them back. The hospital was too clean, too bright, too full of people who didn't know what had just happened on that mountain. Ellie stood in the hallway, her hands bandaged, her head throbbing beneath the gauze. Somewhere down the corridor, Wren was sleeping, leg in a cast, body covered in bruises. But she was alive, alive because Ellie hadn't waited, because instinct had shouted louder than protocol. But Ivy was still with her mother. No, Ellie corrected herself, her murderer. Detective Marshall met her in a consultation room. Cal Jennings was already there. Shame darkened his face as he recounted the truth. He had seen Rachel push Daniel, had watched the girls cry hidden among the trees, and instead of reporting it, he'd taken hush money. $2 million offered from Daniel's life insurance, the money meant to protect his daughters in case something went wrong. It had, and Rachel had made sure she'd be the one standing to collect. Ellie listened in silence. When Cal said he was sorry, when he asked for forgiveness, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply said, "You helped hide the body of my son. You watched two little girls lose their father and did nothing. Forgiveness is not mine to give, not today." The officers arrested him then and there. Next came Rachel. They found her in the hospital, calm, composed, playing the part of the grieving widow. She claimed Ellie had attacked her. Said the girls had been frightened, that Daniel had died in an accident, that Ellie had snapped when she learned he was gone. The moment she saw Ellie walk through the door, her mask cracked. "You're lying," Ellie said, voice low and steady. "You tried to kill me. You left Wren in the snow to die, and you murdered your husband in front of your own daughters." Rachel's face didn't flinch. "That's your version of the story." But the detective stepped in. "We have Cal's statement. We have physical evidence. We have Wren." That last word landed like a hammer. Rachel didn't respond. She only stared. Later that night, Ellie sat by Wren's bedside. The girl was sleeping again, fingers curled around her stuffed animal, one of the few items recovered from the wreckage of the burned cabin. The sound of medical machines hummed softly, like distant lullabies. A nurse came to tell her Ivy was awake and asking for her. Ellie went. The girl was small in her hospital bed, even smaller than Wren somehow, her eyes too big, her voice too quiet. When she saw her grandmother, she whispered, "Is Daddy really gone?" Ellie nodded, sitting beside her. "Yes, sweetheart, but not in the way your mommy told you. He didn't leave because he didn't love you. He died protecting you. And I'm going to make sure you always know that." Ivy cried and Ellie held her. A long, aching kind of cry. The kind no child should ever have to cry. Days passed, then weeks. Rachel was charged with first-degree murder, attempted murder, child endangerment, and fraud. She tried to plead insanity. It didn't hold. Cal cooperated fully and was sentenced to 10 years with the possibility of parole in 5. He didn't fight it. Ellie gained full custody of the girls. There were hearings, statements, lawyers, but none of that mattered in the end. Because when the judge asked the twins where they wanted to live, they both pointed to Ellie and said, "With Grandma." They moved into her home in Missoula, a small house once too quiet, now echoing with laughter and life again. Therapy sessions became routine. Ivy developed a habit of sleeping with the lights on. Wren had nightmares for a long time. Ellie sat through every one of them. Not as a ranger, not as a hero, just as a grandmother who refused to give up. And every weekend they hiked. Gentle trails at first, then longer ones. Ivy carried a compass. Wren kept a notebook of birds. Ellie taught them how to read tracks, how to tell direction by the sun, how to stay alive in the wild. They never returned to that mountain, not because they feared it, but because some places carry too much grief to ever feel like home again. Ellie kept Daniel's photo by the fireplace. Sometimes the girls would sit with her and tell stories about him, about the way he used to make pancakes or how he'd sing off-key in the car. And sometimes, when the wind howled through the trees at night, Ellie would step onto the porch, breathe deep, and whisper to the stars. "I found them, son. I brought them home." The mountain had taken her boy, but it hadn't taken everything. And in the end, the wilderness had also given her something back. A reason to keep going. A legacy worth fighting for. And the unbreakable bond between 3 survivors, Ellie, Ivy, and Wren, who, together, built something whole from the pieces of what was shattered.